happen. So now here is Senna in the first car with active suspension in the history of Grand Prix racing.
Peter Collins is team manager at Benetton Formula, responsible for leading his designers, engineers and drivers into the corporate battleground of Formula One.
And non-starters are Nelson Piquet after his Friday crash, Rene Arnoux with suspension problems in the warm-up this morning, and Satoru Nakajima, the Japanese driver of the second Lotus Honda, who failed to get going for the first parade lap.
It is May 1987, and he's watching a replay of the previous weekend's San Marino Grand Prix. Start, and it is Senna leading Mansell. For the elite handful of men in Collins' position, analysis of their team's performance is crucial.
Ahead of his teammate Gerhard Berger. Senna, Mansell, Prost as they come up towards the 200 miles an hour stretch, which leads to the Retapilio.
His weapons of war are the two Ford Cosworth-powered Benetton B187 cars, piloted by Thierry Boutsen and Theo Fabi.
And the fastest man on the course now is Theo Fabi, who has just gone round in 1 minute 29.8.
Last time we saw the neat Cosworth engine, it was with a team in tatters. Now, stitched into its new Benetton chassis, it has a suit that is truly made to measure. It was at the San Marino Grand Prix last year that we witnessed the debut of the Cosworth V6 turbo engine that now powers the Benetton team. It had entered active service in the now defunct Team Haas. But the engine's origins go way back to the 1984 British Grand Prix. Here we saw how Keith Duckworth, designer of that most famous of racing engines, the DFV, came as an observer. Impressed by the massive power of the Honda turbo engines, Duckworth was finally convinced of the need for Cosworth to develop a new turbocharged Grand Prix engine. But his main task was to convince Mike Kranefus of Ford that it would be a worthwhile investment. Although Kranefus was an enthusiast, he also knew that Formula One was a risky business for a major manufacturer. But in the end, we witnessed the actual moment when Duckworth broached the multi-million-dollar question.
Start again.
Well, to start again what?
Make an arrangement.
Duckworth's desire to build a brand new V6 engine stemmed from the dismal failure of an earlier project.
Whether developed from an off-the-shelf design or built from scratch, there are two basic engine configurations: the V6 engine and the inline or straight four. Compactness and the fact that four-cylinder engines tend to be more economical than sixes finally led Duckworth to develop this aging four-cylinder sports car engine.
It turned out to be a sort of technical horror story, complete with a torture chamber.
By February, the four-cylinder prototype is on the dynamometer. Using strategically placed sensors, the tedious business of engine mapping begins.
23.05.
Mapping, as the word suggests, is the business of recording coordinates, all the data, input and output, at all engine speeds and loads.
11,000.
4.5.
22.65, 4.4, 95. Ah.
We've had a accident. Did the blow-by go?
No, it's not moved.
No.
They line up now.
A fibre optic endoscope probes the cylinders as Alan Morris measures the pulleys on the
Yes,
silent
of course.
engine.
Yeah, you get the centre there, look. That. Difference between there and there, look.
Well, just turn the engine round.
Oh, we can't, that's the problem. It's a little bit tight.
Oh.
The cam drive belt has jumped one notch out of alignment. It's the first outward sign of a catastrophic failure, now confirmed by the probing of Paul Ray.
I think the piston's hard up against the valve, so...
Yeah. But it looks like the inlet and the exhaust are crossing, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You have a quick look. No, it's definitely not interesting. Go on, have a look.
We take it off.
Right.
Two hours later, the engine is in the workshop. Off comes the cam cover. For Paul Skelton, this is the start of the routine, absolutely methodical process of damage analysis. A mechanical post-mortem. To avoid distortion, even on a damaged engine, the bolts must be released in a set order. As the cylinder head and plenum chamber come off, the damaged piston is revealed. The earlier analysis by endoscope was correct. The valves have hit the piston. But so far, there are no clues why.
We've got that much screws.
Got the rod's broken.
Mind his feet.
The exhaust and inlet valves have definitely hit the piston or crossed over. But this can be caused by many things at high engine speeds. General Manager of Engineering Dick Scammell is uncharacteristically nervous about such a dramatic failure so soon.
I mean, because the piston's been hitting the head, hasn't it? I mean, it's been thumping on the head quite a long time, because it's formed the piston into the combustion chamber.
Scammell knows BMW have achieved remarkable reliability and power with their four-cylinder engine. The next clue is in the oil. Tiny metal fragments clatter into the drip tray. The post-mortem continues on the gutted engine. Sinister dents in the temporary steel sump seem to suggest some kind of internal explosion. An overwhelming atmosphere of depression creeps in. To Chief Development Engineer Martin Walters, it looks bad.
Lost it again.
Even now, the crankshaft refuses to turn as quite large chunks of big end bearing begin to turn out. What they don't know at this stage is that the entire engine block has changed shape, seizing the internal components.
I am puzzled why we can't turn the engine. This is part of the rod. Just having a look to see if I can find the 2 bolts. There's one.
The scattered and broken pieces begin to come together to form a picture of a much larger disease. This little cup of scrap metal is all that remains of the big end bearing, symptoms of an endemic weakness in the engine design.
The problem is there isn't as much heat as I think you normally see when you just lose a bearing. It's only come up about this far now. It normally tends to get a bit hotter. Now it may be that a bolt broke first.
Excessive heat due to lubrication failure makes steel turn blue.
Just hammer its way out through the edge.
With no obvious discoloration, the search for the cause moves away from lubrication failure to metal fatigue.
Practically stretching, doesn't it? Don't you think?
That's been
Stretch, 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 stretch.
But what started the failure?
The bearing going, but why the bearing?
Well, then,
going? Why the
there's not
bearing?
enough
going?
heat in that bearing, is there?
Oh yeah, quite a few. Quite a few.
The first lesson that the Cosworth engineers are learning is that even a familiar engine, when it's turbocharged, can fail in mysterious and catastrophic ways.
Done quite a lot with it, actually, because that's out of the pump, isn't it? That's how that's bearing, isn't it?
But can't get in the pump though, can it? You've got to go through the...
News of the explosion has reached Jeff Goddard, chief racing engine designer.
What do you think went first? Pump failure, wasn't it?
Well, I don't know, because... I don't know yet. There's something odd, because...
Goddard, an expert on metal fatigue, has never been happy with the plan to turbocharge this old 4-cylinder engine block. Over a year away from the first scheduled in-car test, and back where they started, without an engine.
Got less on the shaft rotating with you. Piston ring seals, we are on piston rings. We talked today,
Yeah.
they haven't got anything.
They haven't, that seal doesn't work.
400 psi, forget it. 15 is max.
Towards the end of 1984, the atmosphere of gloom over the failure of the 4-cylinder engine is replaced by optimism. Funding for the design of a completely new engine has been agreed. It will be a Ferrari-like V6. Keith Duckworth.
The choice of a V6 is on the basis that most people are using V6s who are successful, and that therefore, whichever way the rules go, we feel that they will be to suit V6s. The 120-degree V6 does allow you to fit 2 standard turbochargers in the conventional position, one on each side of the engine, and therefore you can in fact join the rest of them in the now established situation.
Chicago-based Beatrice is a huge American trading company. In February 1985, at the highest level, Ford and Beatrice do a deal. The result is an aerospace quality engineering company on a windy industrial estate near Heathrow.
Tie up with that very nicely.
Yes, the electronics will be the last sort of thing in the file.
Yeah. When will we get an actual engine as a lump, the metal part?
It will build a racing car exclusively for the new engine.
But as the diminutive V6 prototype was wheeled from assembly to the dynamometer, it was revealed that all was not well between the team and its huge American sponsor, Beatrice. By now, Ford were deeply committed to the engine and a sophisticated electronic development program. As it turned out, it was the decision to design their own electronic engine management computer that was to prove to be one of the most...
American Frank Rayo from Motorola and British electronics engineer Steve Taylor are still hunting the bugs from the prototype engine management computer.
This is called eliminate all the noise you possibly can so the engine runs.
Engine runs, full stop.
And when it gets back,
Hang on, Frank, you've got a short back.
see it shorts out, huh?
Yep.
That's the one.
It's on
Something
one
is
on that
in there.
line there. One of those is not the right one. Gone, right.
Yeah, we've done so much to the circuitry and software.
Yeah, but I just want to prove it, all right? I want to put it back to its original mounting.
Okay, check the grounds now.
It's 4 in the morning. They've been working for 18 hours, only to discover what many other Formula One engineers already know, that electromagnetic pulses from the engine play havoc with the delicate memory circuits in the microprocessor.
These are all tied to ground now. 10-5, 728,
You've done 27.
25,
Yeah, well, 27 here should be VSS minus.
27, 28.
You've done that.
Okay, how about this one?
Yeah, but that's the one you said we were shorting out of.
There it is right there. 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. Oh, 30 is a ground.
Well, why is it pulling supply down?
It was open. We tied a V-band to it
Yeah.
on one case.
Good.
Okay, so that's all set. We have a big ground path. All those paths you just said were grounded, right?
Yes. No, it's ignition diagnostics.
IDM. We're not using
Yeah.
it.
Right.
Okay, so when you're the engine per, we appreciate all these kludges.
Make sure you haven't grounded anything on the way. We're looking good from it.
Good. The final test is running this piece of wire to case ground.
Is that the last one?
Yeah.
Fantastic. Looks like you're buying the beers tonight then.
Okay, no problem.
Good. It's very good. Yeah. You can feel it, you know, and everything is...
At last, brain and brawn were mated, running together on the dynamometer under the vigilant eye of specialist engineers from Ford.
The computer is still picking up rogue signals triggering the fuel injector at the wrong moment. Taylor searches in vain for the rogue signal. The engine is shut down.
It would pick off a high spot on the wave.
An hour later, the reason for the erratic fuel injector pulse is still a mystery.
Send out another totally different pulse and continue to iterate that way. It can do that.
Run past those wires. Why don't you just run the outside here?
We saw how, like a patient undergoing intensive care, this engine drifted into life after delicate and painstaking adjustment.
But it's not connected to anything. It's just an open line.
After 2 hours of rewiring, the V6, triggered by its computer, sounds like a racer for the first time. The fuel pulse is steady at last.
Afraid? What, me afraid? No way, mate. What kind of bug do you think I am? Some sort of a pushover? When are you gonna learn? Nothing gets to me. Nothing. So why should I be up a... Raid? Raid?
Don't let flies and crawling insects bug you. Kill them dead with Raid. When it says Raid, it kills bugs. Dead.
For years, the Danes have prided themselves on their beautiful Royal Copenhagen porcelain, their striking antique pewter, their artistic George Jensen silver, even the odd Viking idea in horn. But most agree their finest idea is probably in glass.
Right now, your mouth could look something like this. A hard, ugly wall called tartar is building up around your teeth. And only your dentist can pull it down. But this wall is persistent. It won't stay down for very long, which is why Colgate developed a special toothpaste for adults, Colgate Tartar Control. This fluoride toothpaste not only tastes good, but will reduce tartar buildup on adult teeth, so they feel smoother and look cleaner. Colgate Tartar Control fights the buildup of tartar.
We asked people to test new Tyne brand frozen main meals for one.
I was pleasantly surprised at the amount, actually, in the meal itself, and so was the family.
Spaghetti bolognese was as good as any spaghetti I've had, I think, anywhere, really.
I have to agree with him. It really was excellent.
They all look good on the plate. Good balance of both meat and vegetables, herbs and spices.
The quantity and the quality of it for 99 pence is very good value.
New Tyne brand main meals for one. They're a meal, not a mouthful.
Call this a service. Traditional ways of depositing and withdrawing money can prove
nearly there.
Inconvenient.
I don't believe it.
The Abbey-Link Red Diamond, however, allows you to make deposits or withdrawals on up to 3 different types of account with a single card. Abbey-Link, a member of Link, the national cash network.
By the winter of 1985, ex-world champion Alan Jones was in the cockpit testing car and engine for the first time.
It sounds like a pretty great baritone, doesn't it? Don't you think?
Unlike Jones, Patrick Tombay has driven for Ferrari and has learned to judge a turbo by its sound.
Sounds good.
But beneath the momentary excitement, there were problems.
Steering wheel position's good.
Funding from Beatrice was to be discontinued, leaving Ford as the committed sponsor for the whole show.
Keep it further away as much as you could. But this feels a lot better. You know, more support.
Engine run cleanly?
Yeah,
no
yeah,
problem
very
anyway.
clean. Clean as a whistle.
The philosopher Wittgenstein defined a game as simply consisting of its... Formula One is defined absolutely by its own set of regulations. Regulations that seem as complex and volatile as the technology itself. The excessive power generated by today's turbocharged engines has made a mockery of these rules.
The smooth power that Jones has experienced is due to a totally uncompetitive turbo setting of 2.5 bar, about half race boost, but at least everything else is stable.
Ironically, it's to this setting that all turbo engines will be restricted in 1988, an interim measure before the outright banning of turbos for the 89 season.
87 on the temperature. But no, nothing, not a no. Nothing.
You used 10.5 that time?
Yeah. Oh, thanks, Charlie.
Engine clean all the way up?
Yeah,
no,
clean, no problems. Very clean on the down run and no hesitating or popping or doesn't seem to be any of that nonsense going on.
And the initial...
thought that, I think. Yeah, you'll start to improve it now.
Now it's Tombe's turn.
Three laps, I think. No stopping for lunch. That's what he said, and then lunch.
Lunch?
Yeah,
I've been drinking more than that. You don't do lunch.
For the moment, his main concern is the rather uncomfortable crutch strap on the ill-fitting harness.
Oh! Yo! Do you think you need to get the crouch strap from so far back?
Strangely, for racing men, Cosworth took an early decision to develop the engine slowly, even at the expense of top-end power. This meant that they would never appear to be in the same league as Honda or Porsche.
The heat and fumes at the Dino Ferrari circuit in Italy.
Despite internecine conflicts, the teams struggled to qualify for the San Marino Grand Prix. But their sense of gloom was heightened by recent news of the tough new restrictions on turbo engines. This change in the rules put Ford on the spot. The sponsorless team was in disarray, and the engine was underdeveloped even for the present regulations.
For the race, the computer must run the engine as economically as possible, conserving every drop of its 195 litres of fuel. To qualify, a turn of the screwdriver reprograms the engine into a fire-breathing gas guzzler.
It's going to be interesting. I'm not sure whether it's altogether quicker or not. Actually, the atmosphere should be a bit quicker.
I think you're going to be all right in the race.
Oh, whether quicker or not. Actually, the atmosphere should be a bit quicker.
I think you're going to be all right in the race.
Oh, well, I tell you, on full tanks, it's nice.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
No problems. I hope.
As timed practice starts, favourites for pole position are the Honda-powered Williams. World champion Prost in the Porsche-powered McLaren. Both the Williams cars look for a clear run, followed by the Renault-powered Ligier. With a flying lap of 1 minute 25.8 seconds, Nelson Piquet's Honda Williams lays claim to pole position. But his main rival, Ayrton Senna, in the Renault-powered Lotus, goes ahead by less than half a second, almost immediately. It took Piquet just 9 laps, and his first set of sticky qualifying tyres are finished. Each team is allowed 2 sets of qualifying tyres, and to prevent cheating, an official marks them with a code. Qualifiers are made from a special compound that goes sticky when it gets hot.
If we can get them nice and warm, we can sort of go out and get into it on the first lap, or certainly at the end of the first lap.
Yeah, and then if you get it in the first lap, would you be able to get a second one out of? No, that's it.
That's it, because it's quite a long lap there, and they're gone. So you really, I mean, in terms of qualifying laps, you get 2 qualifying laps this afternoon, and that's it. Put it away, which is a bit crazy, really.
The car is ready for its debut. Formula One includes a set of dimensions to which every car must conform. But before it can be measured, the flat spots must be rolled out of the tyres. Tombe will not drive the new car in this race. His is still being finished back at the Heathrow factory. While other teams grapple for a position on the grid, Japanese technicians in the Williams pit quietly prepare extra engines in case the others explode. These Honda V6s are said to produce up to 1,200 horsepower for qualifying. But today, all eyes are on this new act as it enters the Formula One arena for the first time. The diminutive V6 can now run in anger, its onboard computer holding left and right-hand banks of cylinders in fiery equilibrium. Jones, feeling grip in his tyres, tries for a quick lap. Qualifying tyres on the rear of the car tend to warm up quicker than the front, so the team have developed a system for preheating the front tyres before leaving the pits. But technologists from Goodyear are concerned about the effect this might have on the compound.
I want to try and get back out if I can and have another go. The reason I went for it on the first lap is because the front tyres actually felt quite good. They were hanging in there. So it's pointless doing another lap. That's why I went for it.
Is he happy with the pickup now? Is he happy with it? Or is he never happy with it?
Probably never. I'll ask him this.
Another set of tyres are being gently cooked.
How are those tyres doing? They should be another couple of minutes.
Could do with another 4 minutes.
As the qualifying hour ticks away, a problem is discovered. The left-hand rear brake caliper is rubbing on the wheel rim. Still wrapped in electric blankets, the front tyres are readied for another quick lap. Despite pleas from Jones for an extra powerful qualifying engine, Cosworth have refused to build one, believing instead that a track record of reliability will pay off in the long run. Jones cannot better his first attempt, and as other teams improve their performance, slips to 21 on the grid. Mike Cranifus gives Jones his latest lap time of 1 minute 30.8 seconds.
30.8.
Despite his lack of horsepower, Jones, determined to have another go, decides to cobble together a set of tyres from his used qualifiers in the hope of knocking a few tenths of a second off his lap time.
What are they doing?
Just trying to make a decent set of tyres out of the two that I've used.
Okay, no. Yeah, just, I mean, 2/10 and you're 8th or 9th.
Yeah, no.
It's very close there.
At the other end of the pit lane, Nelson Piquet has used up his qualifiers and watches his Williams teammate Nigel Mansell try to push Lotus off pole position. Jones decides to put race tyres on the rear of the car and qualifiers on the front. But Cosworth's Paul Ray spots a problem. The exhaust has cracked just ahead of the turbocharger. Today's game is over.
The team was not working well. A weakness seized upon by the battalions in the pit lane and spotted early on by Benetton team manager Peter Collins.
Actually getting personalities to work together and to gel and to actually work as a team rather than a number of individuals working for the same company is really a very, very difficult thing to do.
Symptoms of this failure to gel were already evident as far back as pre-season testing, when the early electronic engine management system was first tried at full boost.
The team trailer is a mobile workshop. Inside, Steve Taylor and Chief Development Engineer Martin Walters pass the latest strategy or map from the main computer to the electronically programmable memory, or EEPROM.
Hello. About 3 minutes.
This is known as burning a chip. Each chip can produce quite different behavior from the same engine.
Well, obviously the mapping data is different. It's this has got the most latest specification in the chip for the engine calibration.
Okay.
Right.
It is 10:10, and with...
You can just, yes, I don't want to do that unless you can reach that, but can you? Not very well. Not very well, but you can reach it, yes, okay.
The rain, forecast for midday, arrives half an hour early and brings with it Team Lotus, hoping to test their latest Renault engine. Taylor has decided to put the module back the way it was. The activity attracts Renault engineers from the Lotus team.
Okay, we'll just check to see if it runs and then we'll go.
Unaware of the increasingly desperate kill switch problem, the Renault engineers try to catch a glimpse of the new Ford engine.
It works mechanically. We checked that. We checked with the meter on here. Back there's the power. Yeah. And it was on and